Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide.
Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's New Year.
Yes. Yes. I hope you all had a good start to this new year. And I hope that you all have a continuation of goodness as 2024 moves forward.
Yes.
Sometimes when we return from a break, and Alice and I both know this as people who worked in classrooms, you go, you get rejuvenated, you walk into the classroom, and it's the same old, same old.
Yes, it's like wah wah kind of thing.
It's just the same old, same old.
Same old thing.
Right. And there have been times when I've thought to myself, I should rearrange this room. It's looking a little stale to me now. But I was a little hesitant to do that before the children returned from their break because I wanted them to walk into a familiar atmosphere. So I wanted the classroom for them to basically look like it did before our break, even though I felt like it needed more oomph or it needs new things in it, or it's not going to be as inspiring to the children as it was for a couple months before the break. And we need some changes in here. But again, I always had that hesitation that children returning from break need everything to look familiar. And so I dealt with the room, even though it would have been easier to arrange it when no one was present, and I used to think, no, that's not really good for them. And I was really in a quandary, I remember.
Yes,
you're in a quandary. It was a dilemma. Do I rearrange? Do I not rearrange? Like, what do I do? So Allison and I came upon an article that was so interesting and it made us think. It was about co-designing the room with the children. Can you imagine? We're not setting up a room at the children and going, here you go, we set it up.
There you go.
Instead, we would be co-designing it with them.
Yes. And I feel like that's the way it should be, right? Because it's their classroom.
I mean,
right?
For goodness sake, it really is.
It's not, it's theirs, right? It's for their learning. It's like whatever they need to learn better or work better or collaborate together. Like, it's for them.
It is for them.
It should be designed by them.
Yes, it should be designed by them. And it needs to fit their needs, not my needs. We always have to keep that in mind. Sometimes it's like we have blinders on and we're only thinking about what we think will work or function. And we don't take into consideration what's actually happening with the children. But it turns out, surprise, surprise, they can be your co-designers and have a voice in some way, even if they're not speaking yet, they can have a voice in what happens. So if we were to take this from the younger children, the infants, the mobile infants, the young toddlers, who really can't look at you and say, here's what I think of the room.
Yeah.
We can have them move in the room, do things in the room, and really notice what is drawing them in. What do they tend to go to? What parts of the room are not being utilized by them?
Right.
What is attracting their attention? What is not attracting their attention? When we're talking about young infants, they're not even mobile yet. So it's not like they're going to pick out a part of the room to go to without you. Right. But you can put some things out in front of an infant and see what they look at, what they reach for, right? What are they finding compelling from this space? And if they're not reaching for or seeming to be entertained by or wanting whatever it is we offer to them, then maybe that needs to be swapped out for something new.
Eliminate it for a little bit. Swap it out.
Swap it out for something else
later, and then maybe they'll be more interested in it. Like they're just not interested in it now. Maybe they're not developed to that point yet. Maybe if it's kind of out of sight, out of mind for a little while, and you bring it back, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I remember that? Yay, now I know, now I'll play with it. You know,
Right.
it could be, or it could just never be interesting to them because they're individual people with individual interests, and every single class is going to be different. So your class last year might have really been interested in that toy, and you're like, oh, I'm going to bring it back because they just so loved it, and this class just doesn't. You know, this
Right.
group of infants doesn't. So yeah, it's okay to just eliminate it or rotate it out. You know?
Rotate with another class
Rotate.
if you have to. Rotate.
Yeah.
So at
Pivot.
first with
Yeah.
you pivot. It always
Sorry,
reminds
had
me
to
of
get
that
it in
Friends
there.
episode. Yeah.
Couldn't help
So
it.
so when they're really young, you're going to be observing them and watching what draws them in whatever developmental way they're drawn into something. And then they're going to get to an age where you can they're mobile. You can encourage them to move in different ways around the room. Is this functioning for them? The placement of these shelves or these tables or whatever it is this functioning? They will eventually, and it's, by the way, not long. When you think of their, you know, it's so funny. We think of like, oh, by the time they're 5 years old. Well, folks, that's not long.
No.
So, but it won't be too long. I think by the time they're verbal at all, they can tell you what they like in the room, what they don't like in the room, right? Yeah. If you even do, go get your favorite toy and then look at what's left on the shelves that they did not go run to.
Right.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
What did not appeal to them?
Yeah, sometimes the way it's arranged just doesn't work, right? Like,
yeah.
like I've noticed with like my youngers, I think they were like 2 turning 3, maybe they were at 3, that they would always take a set of toys and bring it all the way over to this table over here. And I was like, well, why do they keep doing that? So I eventually just put that shelf at that table so that they like could just go there, because for some reason they like that particular table with that particular set of toys. So why make it hard for them? That's what they want to do. There you go. That's what I did. I moved the shelf, and you know, like, it's why am I making it harder for them? Why am I getting, and then there's teachers like, no, you can't put it on that table. Like, no, just let it flow on its own. You'll figure it out, you know, and you might need to do a little bit of arrangement, you know, in the middle of the school year to make it more functional. And that's okay.
With things like the environmental rating scales in mind. We're not saying to depart from the infant toddler environmental rating scale, the early childhood environmental rating scale. There are measures of best practice in room arrangement now that are used by the quality rating improvement systems in the states that you should use to teach you about a good room arrangement. You know, ITERS, which is the infant toddler environmental rating scale, the 3rd edition, ITERS 3, and ECHRS, the early childhood environmental rating scale, again, the 3rd edition of it. So it's ITERS 3 and ECHRS 3. If you are a family child care provider, it's FECRS, FCCRS, right? You can get these things for, I don't know, 20 something bucks on Amazon. It's not a mystery what the environmental rating scales say. You can find out, and they teach us what is excellence in the environment. We should maintain what the environmental rating scale say and what, like, maybe your curriculum says. Curriculums like creative curriculum have a lot to say about the arrangement of the room. You know, even, you know, when you think about teaching approaches like Montessori, Reggio Emilia, they have a lot to say about what should be in the room and how this should be arranged. You need to follow that. And then within those boundaries, we can say to the children or observe the children and say, and be like, what's working here? What isn't working there? But you have to maintain the ITERS and ECHRS and curriculum boundaries. And I just want to make that really clear so that nobody goes back from this episode saying we should be able to just willy-nilly do what we want. There's always structure within freedom. Our structure in the environment are the environmental rating scales. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the environmental rating scales, the ERS, that's enough. We love the initials for these things. ECHRS, ITERS, FECRS, whatever environment you're in, go look it up. Go look it up because it's very important. And we may even have links to information on our website in the listener resources page. Pretty sure we have some links there having to do with the environmental rating scales. So you're going to do what they say about having separate and distinct areas, about making sure that you have enough materials. Hopefully your program has enough materials, about making sure it's organized in a way where areas are not mixed. Children need tables in the areas where they need tables during free choice time, not all together for meals. That's what am I looking for? That's an outdated belief.
Old school. And an
Old
outdated.
school,
That's a better,
It's an outdated understanding of what children need. The tables need to be in the areas that children need them to function well during free play. All this information is out there on our website and other episodes of this podcast. So we're going to maintain that, but then we're going to draw the children into co-design. When they get old enough where they are verbal, and we look at them and we say, what do you like about our room? What do you not like about our room? When children do project-based learning, we've said to ask children things like, what do you know about plants and trees? What do you want to know about plants and trees?
Yeah, yes.
We should look at children and say, what do you like about our classroom? What do you not like about our classroom? What do you want to change? You may be surprised what they say to you.
They might tell you things that you weren't even, it's not even on your radar, okay, which is amazing. And it's a brilliant idea, so, and it's their classroom. So let them have a say in what they want, and what they like, and what they dislike, it's theirs. You're just there to facilitate it as a teacher. You're there to facilitate whatever it is they need to learn.
Right. So,
I find it,
go ahead.
I find it easier sometimes to arrange the room and set up the room while they're in it with them, because in the beginning of the school year, when I set up the classroom and I walk in, I find it very difficult to set it up, to put the toys on the shelves. What toys do I pick? What do I do? Where should I put this? I find it very, very difficult, because I don't know what this particular group of children is going to like. So then you kind of are going on like last year's class, but I feel like it's not correct to do that, because it's not last year's class, right? I find it so hard to set up. And then once the children are in it and have been in it, now it's become like this living environment. Whereas before, I feel like it's not so living. It has life in it. It's got living in it, and you can go based on their suggestions, their likes, their dislikes, what they want. They should be able to design their own environment. And then it becomes like a more living, more, I want to say fruitful, but I don't think that's the right word that I'm looking for.
I'm not sure. It depends what the change is. You could have a young child say, I want to hang my pictures up over here, where you have, maybe it's a place you didn't put original art. And they say, I want pictures hanging over here. Or the children say something about wanting something moved for some reason. Pre-K children can certainly tell you what they want moved.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I want to build bigger block things. The shelf's in the way. That would be good to know.
Yeah, thanks for telling me. Like, you don't know sometimes, because even if you're watching them build in the block area, they might not, they're just maybe using the space that they have, and they're not going to sit there and complain, or like they're still able to build. So you're like, okay, yeah, that's working. But until they say it and they're like, listen, like, I can't build as big as I want or as wide as I want. This shelf is in the way. Because before they were just making do with what they had, so asking them and giving them a voice is important, because now and they would have made do with that space for the whole rest of the school year and not complained maybe, and not said anything until you asked. So it's important to ask.
I recall a child in a classroom one time who was upset that the class had two of those soft chairs, the chairs that sometimes are put in the library area. They're like for individual children. The class had two of those chairs for individual children. And you always get children who just love a certain area and they go there all the time. I remember one time I was in a class and one of the children was upset. And it turned out that she was upset because she never gets to sit in the chairs in the library area. wouldn't it be nice to just open up a conversation about the room, even if you do it a little bit at a time, space by space, bring the children over. If you brought the children over and said something about the library area, if that child had the opening to say, I never get to sit in a chair before being so frustrated, you know what that would tell me as a teacher? I need to think about, are there extra chairs in this building that I could bring in? Is there a way that I can extend the soft seating in here so that this child gets to sit down? And it would not mean to me that I need to throw the other two children out. They can choose to go there.
No, they should be able to sit too. Yeah.
Right. I need to extend soft seating somehow, or at least make someone aware that we need more soft seating in the room. You know, sometimes, you know, children will say things like that, like, I want to use the Play-Doh more. And you realize, wait a minute, I haven't been really emphasizing the use of Play-Doh. I'm going to put it on a different shelf, make sure this child notices it. And I'm going to tell you what one of the most neglected areas of a room is, and maybe the children have ideas for it. And that would be the science area. Maybe if we all go to the science area and look around, and that's our large group today, look around the science area and ask the children what they would like to put in there. And anything that's within reason, we try to figure out how we can do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they'll have really awesome ideas. Sometimes it happens it just happens, like the science, especially like I remember last year we did trees in the beginning of the school year, and they wanted to bring in all the acorns and the leaves and everything, and that lasted all year long. Like, even though we weren't learning about trees anymore, that's what they wanted in there. And they would bring the leaves and they would put it under the little microscope thing and the magnifying. And even though we weren't learning about trees anymore, that's what they really were interested in. So we had trees and tree items in there all year round, because they would go to the playground and be like, I want to bring this and put it in science. Go ahead. You know,
but how many adults will look and go, well, we're done with the tree stuff, and take it out without saying anything to the children. Take it out. So another way to co-design is to look at the children and say, so, you know, we're done with the time we're going to spend really studying trees for now, but we can leave the tree parts here if you want it. Yeah. Do you want me to leave the tree parts here? Even the children, and not make assumptions. Teachers will look around and go, you know, they must be tired of those dump trucks, because they've been using those toy dump trucks for months already. I'm going to pull them out and I'm going to bring something else in. To look at the children and say, I'm thinking about taking the dump trucks out and bringing something else in. Can I take the dump trucks out? Would be amazing. Yeah. Can you imagine? Like, I'm thinking about if I came home. Okay, I'm going to tell you all a story. I'm going to tell you a personal story about rearrangement without me knowing ahead of time that it was going to happen. And it was, I don't remember if I told this story on the podcast before, but it was something else. Okay. My children at the time were sharing what was a smaller room. Two of my children were sharing a smaller room in our home. And my husband and I, our bedroom was a larger room. They were teenagers, or almost teenagers by this time. They were teenagers because we went out. So we went out, came home, and my children had swapped our rooms. Allison's jaw is hitting the bottom of the YouTube tree.
Well, I don't know your children, so
Allison, you have to ask them. You have to ask them. This is their like claim to fame, the thing they're most proud of from their childhoods. They actually moved all the furniture, and we weren't gone all that long, folks. We didn't abandon them or anything. They swapped our rooms while we were not home. And we came home, and I'm in an entirely different room now to sleep. I'm going to share with you.
Amazing.
Thank you. My children. I'm going to
the amount of planning alone just to get that done.
The plotting and the planning and the preparation for sure. I'm going to share with you that we left it that way. Yeah. And we did. And to this day, to this very day, that bedroom that they put us in, we are still in.
Oh, wow. See, it worked.
Because it worked. It turned out that though it was smaller than our original room, It
Yeah.
actually was very functional for me and my husband for a variety of reasons. Where closets were, where other things were. Like it kind of worked out. And then when my children grew up and moved out, well, guess where I'm sitting right now? We made the bigger room partially an office, partially a guest room.
Yeah.
It actually functions better this way.
Yeah.
So, where was I going? I'm going to sometimes the children have a great idea.
Great idea.
About their own needs, and they see things that we don't see because they're a different person with a different perspective. The arrangement in my home worked for everyone.
Yes. But you would have never thought to do that on your own, I don't think. Not ever. And for multiple different reasons, you would have never thought to do that on your own, you know? And and I think it does sometimes take a child to sit there and say, no, we're just going to do it. And the only way we're going to be able to do it is if we do it in secret, because then they'll have to go along with it, which in a way was kind of smart of them. But
I mean, I guess
because if they came up to you and said, hey, mom, we really want to swap rooms, you would have been like, yeah, no way. I don't think so. Go do something else.
I would have,
you would have just
no.
dismissed it, and it would have missed the whole opportunity of them having this agency, is that the right word, to do this, like to get together, to team up. They must have been planning that for weeks, you know, like, and to do it. And what a great opportunity for everybody in that house, right?
It is, yes. And it is an infamous story in my family. I mean, people will just randomly go out to, remember when they switched your rooms? My uncle, Alison knows my uncle. He'll just go to, remember when the boys switched your rooms, and he laughs. It was
because uncle, that's a story that he would love, because I feel like your uncle very much prizes people's individuality, and they're like, he props people up to do things like that in a very positive, wonderful way.
Because my uncle was an educator, and he was a good educator, and he became an assistant principal because he was such a good educator. To this day, that man's been retired for a while now. To this day, he has students who loved him, in touch with him. Why? Because he valued the perspectives of the young people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
And that's so important, that you can make a lasting impact on children if you allow them to be who they are, which reminds me of a really good quote, my favorite new quote, which is like let me think of it now. Encouraging someone to be exactly who they are is the biggest way to love them, or something like that. And I think that as educators, if we do that, it's my favorite new quote. Yeah. The greatest way to love somebody is to let them be themselves and to value that. And I think that sometimes in education today, everything is so like about conformity. Yes. You know, so when you have a child who's like, let's not conform to the norms of like the parents get the biggest room in the house kind of thing, that's value, because now that's like a life lesson that's going to go on forever, right? If you allow the children in your classroom to design their classroom space, their environment to a point, you know, like, then what a great opportunity to first off learn about these children in a different way, you know, and you're giving them this, like, you guys are, it's like you're breeding leadership in them.
Yes.
You know, like, you know, and that's such a smart thing to do for these children, to give them this, like, oh, I can be a part of this group and tell my opinion and not have that opinion be judged. Right? Let's listen to everybody's opinion. We'll get everybody's suggestions, and we'll see what we can do together as a group, and what's going to work and not work.
And we are a team in here. It's almost like paying lip service to team if I'm making all the environmental decisions. Again, there's structure. It has to be, there are some things that have to be a certain way, but there are other things they can have input about. We are a team in here, and we're going to co-design. So I offer this all to you, including my outrageous story about what my children did, which actually turned out to be okay.
Yeah.
And I'll give them this. It was courageous, because my husband and I could have reacted much differently than we did. We were mostly shocked. By the way, we were just mostly shocked.
Could you not be?
And then we were like, I can't believe this, but then it sort of worked. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're going to let you go think about co-designing with the children and whatever age group you work with, or maybe even if you're home in your home, if you're a family member, help them, let them help you design their bedroom, their playroom, whatever it is. You don't have to dictate it all. So I hope that you take this back and you think about it and that you start to refresh for the new year with the input of children.
Yes.
Okay, preschool peeps, we will catch you next week on the podcast.
Yes. Bye, peeps.